Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started shortly. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Let's drop in the chat to see where we're from. Where are people joining us today as we're still waiting on people to join us as we see these participant numbers climb. Okay, Chicago representing, Boston, Springfield, DC, LA. So good morning, buenos dias to our West Coast folks. Florida, Arizona. Okay. Mi casita. I love that answer. Okay, we'll wait another minute or so as we're still getting participants joining. We're super excited, of our program today. Also, we're excited it's Hispanic Heritage Month, so we're super excited they're able to join us today. We have a great panel of some powerful Latino leaders joining us, so we can't wait to get started. Okay, since it's 12:02, we'll go ahead and officially welcome everyone to our official National Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. And I have the honor of introducing Patricia Mota, who is our innovative trailblazer, startup entrepreneur, author, connector, public speaker, and compassionate leader with a particular strength that amplifies the mission of the Hispanic Alliance of Career Enhancement, also known as ACE. Patricia has served as our president and CEO for ACE. She leads our strategy, fundraising, development, leadership programs, and expanding our organizational reach, both on a national and international scale. Patricia's story of transition is one that is representative of many of our stories of those positively impacted by our programs and opportunities through ASE. Since stepping into the CEO in 2015, the budget has quadrupled, membership has tripled to over 150,000, built over 250 corporate partnership, has extended the organization's reach across the US and 50 countries. Under her leadership, ASE now offers enhanced programming for youth, senior leaders, entrepreneurs, and diverse audiences worldwide. In 2021, Patricia has added co-founder to her list of accolades, collaborating to build SheNext, a fintech startup. And Patricia earned her double bachelor's arts degree from Indiana University Bloomington in Spanish and Communication and Culture, with a master's also in public affairs in the public management from Indiana University School of Public and Environmental Affairs, along with executive leaderships from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University and the McDonough School of Business at Georgetown University. Patricia is also a certified coach and insight discovery insight practitioner and a proud 2022-2024 World Economic Forum delegate, a 2019 Leadership Greater Chicago Fellow, and a 2019 Aspen Institute Festival of Ideas Scholar. Patricia is a proud Mexican American, Latina, daughter of immigrants, and first generation college graduate. So I'll welcome to the stage, or virtual stage, Patricia Mota.
Gracias, Christian. Bienvenidos a todos, and thank you for the kind introduction. I want us to jump right into the great conversation and the amazing leaders that we have joining us today. Feliz Hispanic Heritage Month, Latino Heritage Month, Latine Heritage Month. I am proud to welcome this session and welcome our leaders and celebrate Latino leadership, legacy, y oportunidad. Every September 15th, we take this as an opportunity to reflect on our past, but most importantly, especially now, chart a course forward to the future. So this year, we do so at a time where our communities across the country are really feeling the weight of a lot of challenges, whether it's economic uncertainty, debates and challenges around immigration, disparities in education and healthcare. Yet we are also feeling a powerful truth. Our contributions, our voices, and our unidad, our unity, has never mattered more. The data tells a compelling story, and we have an amazing leader that's going to dig right in. But it also reveals some of the gaps, right, that we're facing. And these are not just Latino issues. These are American issues that affect our economy, our democracy, and our shared future. This moment now, more than ever, calls us more than a celebration. It calls us to lean into faith, courage, and collective action. Our grandparents, our parents leaned on faith and community to survive. Now we must rely on one another to thrive. Because when one of us advances, whether it's in a boardroom, a classroom, a city council chamber, we all rise. This is why we have gathered the amazing, extraordinary leaders today. Ana Valdez, who's the president and CEO of the Latino Donor Collaborative, who reminds us that the narrative of our comunidad must reflect our impact and our strengths. We have Damian Rivera, president and CEO of Alpha, who champions Latino talent and the workforce of tomorrow and today. We have Azi Gramada Mesa, president and CEO of the Latino Corporate Directors Association, who pushes us to ensure that we have a seat and a voice in corporate boardrooms. And Erika Bernal Martinez, CEO of Naleo Education Fund, who works tirelessly to ensure that Latinos are represented in public leadership and shaping the policies that affect us every single day. Together with these leaders, we represent the legacy, those who came before us, the leadership we bring today, and most importantly, the opportunity that we bring for tomorrow. So let's celebrate, let's dig right in, and we'll jump right in with our first speaker, Ana Valdez, and have a conversation regarding some of the data, the great work that she's leading across the country. Ana, muy buenas tardes. We're gonna jump right in with the first question for you.
Excellent.
What?
Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks, Patricia, for putting this together.
Of course, the amazing team that we have at ASA that has worked diligently to get us here to we are today. Mi primera pregunta, my first question for Ana is, what are the most surprising or impactful statistics about the Latino economic power and population growth that sometimes is overlooked?
Well, thank you, because my favorite thing in the world is giving good news, and in this case, with all the numbers, numbers don't lie, right? And Latinos are just an incredible force in every way, but also in the economic way. And so the biggest surprises are, when we started measuring the Latino GDP, so that means the GDP that Latinos are producing in the United States. It was at 2.1 trillion, and we already thought it was incredible. That was in 2017. But today, this year, actually, we found that it doubled. It went up to $4 trillion. What that's equivalent is to the fifth largest economy in the world. So imagine only China, only, of course, the United States overall, but China, Germany, and Japan would be bigger than what we're producing in this country. That is actually, Patricia, always shocking for people because you hear the stereotyping and you would think completely otherwise. But the reality is, us, our parents, everybody in our community has created the fifth largest economy in the world, which is bigger than any of the Latin American countries, bigger than Russia, bigger than Canada, bigger than India, which is 1.4 billion people.
That's huge.
We're only 65. So imagine how different that is. Can I say one more number that is
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to be you and your audience will be surprised. You know the stereotypings about Latinos. Do you know that 91% of Latinos are citizens? 9% have papers, and only 9% are undocumented. So the vast majority of us are documented, whether they're citizens, which are the majority, or even with permits to work and live here. So that's another big number that surprised us tremendously.
hope everyone is taking notes and writing this great information and use this as part of our toolkit, right? To advocate, to share knowledge, right? To share wisdom. And it's just amazing to believe that it's not that long ago that the purchasing the GDP that went from 2.1 to now doubled. It's just amazing, amazing. So much
Right.
power and contributions that our comunidad is bringing to the forefront.
Yeah.
So my second question for you, Ana, is how do the Latino workforce contributions shape key industries in ways that are not commonly recognized?
You know, that's a great question too. Thank you, Patricia. So first of all, according to Department of Labor, 78% of all the new workforce in the next 10 years will come from the Latino community. Why is this? But check 78%. We're only in total 19.5%. Why are we contributing with 78%? Well, the reason being our community is very young. So the age most populated in the Latino community is 12 years old. The age most populated in the non-Latino community is 52. So imagine the difference in youth. And
Mhm,
imagine all this youth turning 18 in 6 years in average, right? But in 6 years and entering not only the workforce, Patricia, also the voting block and the
mhm,
students, right, for college and everything. So that's why it's so important. But let me tell you one more thing. It's important also because of the other part of productivity, which is consumption.
mhm,
Latinos have an even bigger power of consumption than the power that they have in GDP. So they contribute with 4.0, trillion dollars for GDP, but they have a 4.1%, I'm sorry, 4.1 trillion dollars purchasing power. So, as you know, the economy of the United States is based on consumption. So, when we are indispensable, we're talking not only about the workforce, but also the consumption and all those businesses that we power are employing non-Latinos, are selling to non-Latinos. So the impact doesn't stop with us. It actually expands completely nationally.
yeah, so it's an economic imperative for our country, right?
Exactly.
That we are not only cultivating the workforce, the Latino workforce, but you're saying also as the consumer, right? Because we are also out there contributing in so many ways.
We're in.
And I love that we've got folks in the chat. Like, feel free to engage in the chat with one another, network, ask questions. We will have some time towards the end. And this amazing group of leaders and Anna that we have with us today. And Anna, so with what evidence-based narratives do you think can best counter common misconceptions, because there's so many out there, right? We're working diligently on changing the narrative about the community, our community's economic impact.
Absolutely. Well, so many. We have a social media campaign for young Latinos because, as I said, they're the bulk of who we are, right? And they're going to college, and they were born here. 94% of Latinos less than 25 years old were born here. That means they're American. They speak English as first language, but they have lots of them have parents that weren't born here and they've been through the struggles. So imagine you cannot get a workforce and an economy more powerful that somebody that has the advantages of being an American, but that has that drive and that hunger, right, to make their parents' sacrifices worth it. So that's amazing. I'm going to tell you. So I told you about our campaign because the latest one of our campaign, the campaign is called Elevate Latinos, and it's in all the platforms. And we're doing kind of simulation, and it's a dark skin, like somebody that looks like me in a bench with a blonde friend, right? And the friend says, "Oh, so your parents must be immigrants, right?" And so the blonde blue eye says that, and the girl says she's dark, and she says, "No, we're not. Like my family has been here for 500 years. How about you? I remember you told me that your grandmother just came here in the 50s. Who's the immigrant?" And I think that is so incredibly shocking because, I live in California, I'm Mexican, and I tell you, everything in California, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Texas, all those names are in Spanish because we were Mexico before. We
Mhm.
were in this country before any British person touched this continent. The same happens with Puerto Rico, the same with the Tainos, the same happens with Florida, with Cubans. So that's, in my opinion, one of the biggest myths.
We got some snap, snap, snap in the, the chat. What am I calling? Well, and we got the handshake. Yes, so powerful. And I hope, I know this is meant also to inspire us, right? To really take this information and leverage it as part of our toolkit and to advocate. And we are also wrapping up, right, with to-do key action that we want everybody to consider as well. So based on all this, my last question before we go to our next speaker, what is the biggest opportunity we should focus on to ensure Latino inclusion in leadership?
I think that we already have the economic contribution. We already are going to college in record numbers. We already are the biggest entrepreneurs in this country and are buying the biggest amount of houses. What we need to do is use our voice, because we need to spread that word. We all, in our own way, we need to use the power of our voice, the power of our pen, writing articles, writing notes to companies, etc. The power of our vote, and more importantly, the power of our purse and our pocket. Because we should buy the products that represent us well. We should watch content in films and shows that actually represent us at all, and then represent us well. And all that power that we have to start exercising it, because we need to get that awareness from other people.
Wonderful. Power of the pocket, of our voice, our purse, the power of the purse, and so much more. Look forward to talking more with you towards the end. Gracias, everybody. Please give us a round of applause. We're going to talk more. Now we have our next special guest, Damian Rivera. I know Alpha's in the house because I saw some folks representing in the chat. So let's get a shout out, who is the president and CEO of Alpha. Damian.
How you doing? I am
I'm doing
excited
well.
to be here. Excited for the Kickoff Hispanic Heritage Month with ASE. It is the best way to go ahead and have some great conversation and making some things happen. And so I am excited to be able to have this conversation today.
We're excited to have you. And I know we've got the hearts and the hand claps that are going on. Damian, tell us about the biggest challenges that you see Latino youth. We're talking a little bit more specific on the workforce, and that are entering and thriving in the workforce.
I want to hit on there's three key pieces, right? So one is the systemic barriers that we've heard about before. Number two, the stereotypes. You heard a little bit about it earlier today. Stereotypes and the push to hide, right? The push for our community to hide. The third piece is push to pathways without a clear advancement sector. So let's go ahead and get into it a little bit. The systemic barriers that are out there, we know a lot about those. I'm not going to go too deep into it. However, there was one of the questions or a comment that was made by Jonathan that asked, what are we doing about the programs that are being removed from the Latino community in colleges? The key piece around all three of these things right now is that every person on this Zoom has to be visible. Every single one of us over the next 30 days and over the next 30 months and over the next 30 years has to be visible. We need to make sure that all of those students, those 3.7 million students in the Latino community that are going to universities, community colleges, trying to figure out what's next for them, sees all of you. If we do that, those challenges that are out there will be dampened, right? It is critically important that everybody is visible right now to go ahead and counter a lot of those issues, the stereotypes and the push to hide.
Exactly.
Love that. Be visible, right?
Be very visible. Social media, in your communities, make sure that you are getting out there, knocking on doors, being active to make sure that people are voting. All of those pieces, be visible. You all are already the dream personified, and let that next generation see you every single day.
100%, 100%. It kind of goes in line with what Anna was saying, and the power of the pen was making sure even publishing or writing, right? You talk about social media, leveraging your platforms, because everyone has one. Everyone has one, right? And I heard a out there. So and some great messages on the chat. Damian, so on that, you talked about, everybody can make a difference. So how critical is mentorship, networking, in overcoming some of these challenges where you touched on, like, the fear of us perhaps being pushed to quiet down, right?
Yeah, the reality is, so networking so I'm going to hit on mentorship, and there's going to be a lot of people that say, hey, sponsorship is critical and all that. Yes, Once you're in companies, right, the sponsorship piece, all that sort of thing. I'm going to keep on mentorship for a bit because everybody has complete control of how they are able to mentor out there. And mentoring does not need to be one-on-one in person. This goes again to you can be a mentor to literally millions out there if you leverage your social media to go ahead and communicate, to be able to help them see what it is to be the authentic you, gives them permission to be the authentic them in everything they do. And so mentorship is going to be critical. The networking is going to be the differentiator of the future. Here's what I mean. Imagine for a second with the age of AI and where things are going, knowledge is going to get leveled out really quick. Really quick. Everybody's going to have the same access to information at certain points. So the network you have right now, they talk about your network is your net worth. That is going to be an even bigger component of life moving forward. And the best thing about that I see is the Latino community that's what we are about. We network all the time. We connect with each other. This event is an example of that. 4 or 5 different organizations coming together to create more inspiration across the nation for everybody during Hispanic Heritage Month. Leverage the network, that connections between the knowledge is what's going to allow for individuals to create the new businesses that take control of where the economy goes. And that is where we're going to have a differentiator because the Latino community we are diversity within diversity in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so through those networks, through those conversations, we're going to be able to create the great next thing that allows for a great world moving forward.
100%. 100. And those of you that are dropping your LinkedIn on the chat, let's leverage this opportunity to network, right? We're here
Yes.
at an event, so make sure that you're connecting, sharing resources, asking questions, asking what you need from support. And so can you share a couple examples of successful initiatives that you've done? And I know Alpha does a lot of great work, right, to help Latino professionals at different career stages.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to start with, I think everybody that registered on the bottom of it, you had to click a list, and you saw a list of initiatives that ASED does. Every single one of those are as an example of successful initiatives that is creating change in the community. If you are an entrepreneur, LBAN, what they do for entrepreneurs and helping them scale to become great companies, they're already great companies, bigger great companies, is another amazing organization. And of course, I'm super biased towards Alpha, obviously. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Alpha has amazing programs. Our convention, we had over 5,000 folks there. We have over 200 companies across the country that engage with us, over 200 chapters, local student chapters. And this, Jonathan, is specifically for your question of what are we doing to be able to help create the change that still needs to happen, even though initiatives are being removed from colleges. Get involved with organizations at colleges that are focused on supporting the Latino community. There is a really interesting statistic out there. Less than 10%, I believe it's actually 7% of HSIs have received the Excelencia in Education seal of approval of being created for the Latino community. That means a lot of HSIs are not doing what they need to in order to strongly support the Latino community. So what I will say is the Alpha chapters in the schools, we are continuing to invest in those chapters, create the connections. Even if the schools are throttling down, we're throttling up and making sure that we are having events, initiatives, and connections for those individuals to become the professionals who then become the executives, who then become the board members, who change the world.
Mm-hmm. 100, and that's why the organizations that are here and so many other organizations and the initiatives that we are leading are even more critical today, right? If resources from universities and not just HSIs, but those that are not even HSIs that are having a removal of programs and initiatives that support students need to lean into our organizations that could help them, right? So definitely reaching out, ASA has like our college programs as well and other initiatives, right, to be able to support. So we also need the resources so we can increase the support too if the HSIs or universities in general are not going to offer it, right?
100%. And so can I say two quick? So I want to talk to comments. The SHIP convention is coming up 10/29 to 11/1. You have the Hispanic convention coming up. Those are places with initiatives that have great things happening. I was a SHIP guy. I was chemical engineering in college. That's how I got my job with Accenture way back when. There's one more piece I want to throw out there, and we talk about initiatives and programs and being involved, right? Take action. In addition to that, we need to make sure we're supporting Latino businesses. I love Yvonne put in here her link to her business. I want to call that out. We need to make sure we are creating awareness of Latino-owned businesses. We heard it already from Ana around the growth of Latino businesses in this country. Well, we should support them. If we think about that 4.1 trillion of GDP spending power that we have, if we are spending it in the community, we create this huge growth that will happen. And so we need to make sure we're being very conscious about doing that. And so that may not be a specific program, but it's something that we all can do individually that will have programmatic effects that will break down the systemic barriers that we talked about in question number 1.
Mil gracias, Damien. Let's give him a round of applause. And we'll see you here shortly as we go on to our next guest speaker, Asi Mesa Gromada. Buenas tardes, Asi. ¿Cómo estás?
Gracias, gracias. And you have me following Damien. You know how that works. It's hard one. I'll try to do my
Hey, Ozzy, you have the energy. Come on, I've seen you present before. Tell us about my first question about the current landscape. So we're talking about corporate boards in terms of representation, and where do the biggest gaps remain? So we're shifting here now to talking about corporate boards.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's first to just put who is LCDA very briefly, as we are the largest network of corporate directors and senior executives advancing Latino leadership and impact in the boardroom, with a huge focus on strengthening governance excellence across America. So we're about 650 members. This is the largest group of experienced corporate directors that are focused on advancing Latino impact, which makes us a very unique and very powerful organization. Now, before I give you the answer to that question, I wanted to start with 2 points of data points that we use every single day when we talk to our members and beyond, and why LCDA is important. So 70% of board searches are done without a search firm, all right? Also, we did a review of board opportunity specifications where we reviewed the job spec. And we learned that up to 80% of the job description was focused on soft skills: collaborator, innovator, team player. So things that Damon has been talking about, being in the room and being present and really leaning into the network, is super important. Hence why LCDA is super important, because now we're creating spaces that were never created before or available before, because we want to make sure that people walk into the room and know that people need to know you, understand you, because they're not going to invite anyone into the boardroom if they don't have a level of confidence that that person is going to be extremely value add, not only from a functional perspective, but also a soft skill perspective. Now, to your question, Latinos are a driving force, as Ana mentioned, with over 4 trillion in economic output. Yet on boards, Latino representation on the Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 is approximately 5%. While that is not a great number as you compare it to other communities, I do want to reiterate that in the last 5 years, we doubled in representation in both of Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000. So I use that as a reminder that now we have this opportunity in multiple ways. We now have people who are playing the insider game that was founded by HACER, which is where LCDA came from, that we're now empowering these individuals that are impacting boardrooms to have the right tools to elevate the Latino impact, the right conversation, and as well to bring others into the community of governance. And companies that recognize this economic power of Latinos can strengthen their competitiveness. As we all kind of talked about, there's research reports that talk about this every single day. But there is great opportunity that lies both in Fortune 100 and Fortune 500, which is where the largest influence is, especially when we think about where the gap is. And the biggest gap within those spaces is Latina leaders, who are the most underrepresented in those, but bring extraordinary expertise. And that's something that we focus here at LCDA. 40% of our membership is Latina. And we wanted to make sure that we have that pool and accessibility so that we can really be a resource. So we always say the talent is there. Our job is to ensure that we're connecting these boards with intention and urgency, and it's working. We just need to do more of it.
Wonderful. Yes. And that is a positive to say that it's doubled, right? But the work that continues to remain so that we increase that. And specifically, it seems like the larger gap is with Latinas. My next question is around, what's does diversity in governance truly matter for business outcomes beyond just optics? So sharing, with our audience is why is it critical, right? And that type of a seat that there is representation.
I mean, it trickles down in many different ways, right? If you can see it, you can be it is one aspect that everyone really grabs onto. We talk about not diverse boards anymore. We talk about smart boards. Smart boards
Mm,
drive better business. We use terms in our governance space that, in the rhetoric that we have today, they're just business centric, right? So we
mhm,
talk about smart boards. Smart boards understand their purpose and execute with intentionality. And when you have directors who understand today's fastest growing markets, work segments, your strategies are always sharper, and your risk oversight, which is the main objective of a board, is just stronger. And at the same
mhm,
time, your innovation pipeline is richer if you bring these different communities in. And we've heard over and over from our members the impact of the Latino voice and vision in boards. And it's simply driven on just understanding, that we are bringing that point of view that we represent both the youngest and one of the fastest growing consumer bases in the US. So the role of a board is not only to think about what they're doing today, but think about being an innovator, being a futurist. Where is this world going? And we continue to provide those data points that LDC and other partners keep on sharing because it's super important. We cannot design boards for the today. We need to design boards for the tomorrow and the future. And that is really resonating. And those demographics are really creating a storyline that shows companies with smart boards that have this viewpoint, once again, outperform profitability,
mhm.
decision making, resilience. So it really is not a story about optics, but at the end of the day, it's long-term value that we can create. And who you have in the boardroom is super important to reflect what the future will look like.
Smart boards, right? Making sure that increasing that representation and having that I know Alina, our board chairs in the house. Alina, she loves the term smart boards. Bienvenidos a todos who's joining us. I want to say another thing that maybe not too many people know, but this is also another wealth for wealth generation. I think about, I don't know, people know that some of these boards you get paid for, right? For your service as well. So I think that that's something that I know when I talk to folks, they may not be familiar with that. How about the pathways and strategies that have proven the most effective for Latinos seeking leadership roles at the board level?
Yeah, and Damien took a lot of the information in terms of what he sees is what we see, which is
Hmm.
visibility. It's about preparation. It's about sponsorship. So first on visibility, Latino executives often they have the credentials. We don't. One thing that I'm not very keen on today is having these words about merit. Like the merit is there, right? Us using that term just shows that maybe the merit wasn't there, but the reason why individuals get onto boards is because they've proven that they're worth being on that board. No one wants to give up a board seat just to give it up. But they need to be seen by decision makers who
Hmm.
fill those board seats. That's why LCDA exists. We have events throughout the year that our goal is to ensure that we have the right people in that room. We have a motto here at LCDA: check the ego at the door, check your title at the door. And through those ways, you're able to really build meaningful relationships. And that's working because we have seen people walk into our conference that we have every year. And the best story I can get after a conference is, hey, Ozzy, I sat next to so and so. They introduced me to a board. I'm now in the pipeline. And it's because we created and designed something that is meaningful, but as well that they took the opportunity to be visible and to be in that room. We are here to provide resources. We are here to provide tools, but it's what you do to activate them. Do not assume that someone's going to remember you today, tomorrow, or the next day. You have to be as relevant in any role that you have, and especially in the boardroom that does not, there is no excuses. So you always have to be visible. Second, preparation. LCDA has been primed on focusing on developing programs like our Board Ready Institute that equips executives to speak the language of governance and step into the boardroom confidently. There's LCDA, there's other organizations that are focused on gender and also different kind of functional experiences. So know that there are many resources out there. If you want to start chat GPTing these questions and start coming up with a number of those organizations, there's a number of tools and resources out there. We always say, well, I want everyone to be part of LCDA, and that is our end goal. We're just one part of the ecosystem. you know,
Yeah, I was just at Women Who Lead. I think Julie Castro
how
Abrams,
women
right?
who lead,
They're yeah, How Women Lead. So they're doing, also to make sure they're getting more women on these
yeah.
boards as well. So
50/50
yeah.
One of Fours is led by
Mhm.
my good friend
Yeah.
Heather Spilsberg, que es Latina, and she supports, all the community. But that is super important. And lastly, sponsorship. Making sure that you have sitting directors, CEOs to advocate for you. Those doors open faster, but also to know that there is 5% of the Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 that is comprised of Latinos, right? So there is no excuses. Now we have the insider game. So make sure you start aligning to those individuals that are already in those rooms and learning from them.
We have the insider game. I like that. We do, especially with the people we have here today. And so leverage these organizations that are here as resources. Gracias, Adi. We're going to move on to our next speaker before we open it up for panel discussion. So we have Erika Bernal Martinez, and she is the president and CEO of Naleo. And so she'll tell us a little bit more. So bienvenida, Erika. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, Patricia. Thank you so much to you and to the ASA team for the incredible invitation. What a great panel. So excited to hear from my colleagues. Buenos dias or buenas tardes, depending on what part of the country you're in. I am just so honored and excited to be in community with all of you. I think that's what we need to sort of heal the soul, bring us back to our center, and remind us why it's so important that what we do is something we have to continue doing because the fight is not over. I am with the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials, NALEO Educational Fund. We're an organization whose mission is to ensure that Latinos have access and the opportunity to participate in democracy. With more than 65 million Latinos in the US, our democracy, our nation cannot possibly be strong, cannot possibly thrive if our community is not strong and thriving. And so I'd love to share just some brief highlights. There are more than 7,500 Latinos and Latinas serving in public office, from local school and water boards all the way to members of Congress. There are Latinos serving in 43 of the 50 US states. And over the last decade, some of the fastest segments of growth in the number of Latinos serving in public office are among Latinas. And so while we have made tremendous strides and we have so much to be proud of, and so many barriers have been broken, so many firsts have been achieved, we are still representing just in the single digits percentage-wise of the total number of people serving in public office of the US. So there's much work to be done. But I want to talk to Patricia for a moment too, why this representation matters. We know that it is a time of tremendous change, tremendous disruption, and that every single issue is being affected by what is happening currently in the economy at the federal level. We are seeing tremendous transformation of federal policy, the way federal agencies are being structured, rescissions and funding. All those things are trickling down to state and local government. And the fact that there are more than 7,500 Latinos serving in local office, the majority of which serve in school boards, in cities, and in county governments and state legislatures, means that there are more people who look like our community, who bring our values, who have our shared experience. And they're at the table helping to inform how these decisions will play out in local communities on issues around education, on healthcare, on housing, on emergency response and preparedness, and countless other issues that we know are so, so important to our community. And so I'm really proud of the work that so many NALEO members are doing across the country. They're being brave, they're being bold. And can I say that they're also putting their safety on the line in a time today where being a public servant often makes you a target from people who don't agree with you. And it is not about partisanship. It is about having a democracy where everyone has a voice, where we can participate actively without fear of violence or retribution. And Naleo is really committed not just to ensuring that we have representation, but that those Latinos serving in public office are the absolute best public servants that they can be, that they're the most ethical, that they are the most effective, that they are accelerating their ability to make impact when they get to that school board seat or that city council, and not waiting 3 or 4 years before they figure out how things work. We're creating a network and a support system that helps them succeed because there is urgency to address the many, many issues impacting our community. And I'm so, so thrilled to be able to share this with you all, but also hear about how collectively, all the work that my colleagues that have already spoken, how together we're making a change and really helping our community press forward regardless of the challenges and adversity that we're facing at this moment.
So many key nuggets, and thank you for also saying at the beginning how, you know, this is just warms our soul, right, to be able to connect and to support one another so that we continue to do the work, but most importantly empower and ensure that we're supporting others to go out there and leverage their voice. You talked about the 7,500 elected officials that we have out there. I think just the single digit numbers, last I checked, maybe around 2% that we
Yeah.
still have, so it's very, very small percentage of Latino elected officials that we have out there. So we also hope to encourage that. I think someone said they were thinking about running for office, like, and you know, to also leverage Naleo as a resource for that, right? I know there's also Latino Victory Fund and a lot of other organizations that are doing great work that are really tasked. Anything you'll add in terms of why representation is so important for our future, the influence in public policy?
Yeah, well, like I said, Patricia, we know
Yeah.
that who's sitting at these tables when these decisions on funding, on what gets cut, what gets supported, really, really matter. And again, having folks who come from the communities that they serve, which is a very consistent story in our community among Latino elected officials. They often are serving on the city council in the city that they grew up in or went back home to after they completed college or some sort of professional achievement, and that they understand the historical experience of those communities, and that they are now bringing their preparation and their whole self to making those decisions and having a vision of transformation of not what has been in our cities and our school boards, but what they can be, what our students, what our communities, what our families deserve, is such a powerful story and narrative. And Aleo is working really hard every single day to ensure that those elected officials have the support that they need. And I do want to I do want to say, right, I think one of today's opportunities is this call to action. If you see that things in your communities are not working in the way that they can or should be, run for office, take the plunge. It is not easy. It requires resources, but you all have a powerful network of people behind you, friends, neighbors, you know, the folks you're connecting with today on this, on today's webinar. I'm seeing all the wonderful connections happening in real time. And call those folks together and say, we need to make a change. I'm the person with a vision to create this transformation in my community. And there's certainly more and more organizations supporting Latinos, Latinas, and many others running for office. And La Leo is here to support those that once elected want to be effective, want to make change, want to use their time very strategically, whether sitting in that public office, to transform their communities for the better and for their good, because it is what our people need. It's what they deserve. And we're also working very hard to ensure that our community has a voice. We also run a year-round, nonpartisan civic engagement hotline where people can call for information from everything on how to become a U.S. citizen if they're eligible, to where and how can I vote, where do I register, I don't know if I'm registered. And so our commitment to our community is sort of multifold, from citizenship, helping people become U.S. citizens, to those who are serving in public office, and ensuring that our policies, particularly at the federal level, ensure that Latinos can get counted in the U.S. Census, can become U.S. citizens. And look, we have some challenges in front of us on the policy front, but we are not going to give up. We're going to persevere. We're going to keep up the good fight, and we're going to make sure that we don't lose the gains that we've achieved. And a big part of that is getting more people to be engaged in public office, and certainly continue to encourage our community to let their voice be heard at the polls every single election.
Escucharon. Did you all hear? We are not going to give up. Thank you, Erica. Continue to push forward. Thank you for all of that great work that you are doing. You talked a little bit about the nonpartisan work that you're doing. So regardless of political affiliation, how do you see nonpartisan engagement playing a role in strengthening Latino civic participation?
That's a great question, Patricia, particularly in today's environment that is super hyper polarized. The truth is that our community is extremely diverse. It is becoming more multiracial. It is multi-generational. The experiences of the community in South Florida may be very different from South Texas. It may be very different from Southern California. But the bottom line is that our democracy is only stronger when our community is represented and raising up their power, their voice, and our representation in every political party across the spectrum of political ideas, and that our community is standing up for what matters to them in every single one of those spheres. And so it's the party's jobs to make sure that they convince Latinos why their solutions are the better solutions, but organizations like Naleo and many others who are doing nonpartisan work, our job is to make sure everyone gets fed into the pipeline. Because when you are not part of the political process, you're often not hearing from the parties, you're not hearing from candidates. Our job is to elevate everyone into that cycle so that then the parties, candidates can do their job and sell their message and convince people why they are the best suited for the solutions that our community wants and needs for their lives. But this nonpartisan work of political engagement is incredibly important because making sure that our community is just at the starting line and has the opportunity to hear these messages and be engaged is of absolute critical importance for our long-term potential of achieving full Latino, the full power of our potential in our community with 65 million strong Latinos in the US.
Yeah, a lot of challenges happening right now, as everyone knows, going on right now, and one of them is, Anna, gave the reality in terms of the narrative around what immigration is here in the U.S. in terms of the majority, but it's obviously been such a polarizing topic. But from your perspective and the work that Naleo is doing, what are some key ways immigration and civic participation intersect to build towards a stronger democratic system?
Yeah, well, first of all, Patricia, this country can absolutely not function without the essential skills and role that immigrants play. And we can, run around circles. That is a fact. We are seeing it play out in real time, given the current enforcement policies that we're seeing that I think we're only going to deepen as the weeks and the months go on. And we know from data that has now been telling us for the past 20 years, when immigrants have an opportunity to participate, when they ultimately become citizens, they are some of the most reliable voters that we see. And so it is incumbent upon Congress to do its job and fix our broken immigration system. We need a pathway for immigrants to legalize and adjust their status and become full stakeholders, full participants, full contributors as they already are, but with all the benefits and rights that status adjustment offers them and the opportunity to become US citizens and contribute in a new way, in additional ways to our democracy and to our communities. And so at the end of the day, both parties have failed our community on this issue. And I think it's why you see our community being willing to sort of listen to different voices and try different approaches, because we haven't gotten to where we need to be. But until Congress does its job and legislates a solution, we're going to continue in this broken cycle that helps no one. And so we'll keep fighting for that along the many, many organizations who've been leading that work now for decades. And I know they continue to be tireless in their effort and their commitment to ensure that we create a pathway for our immigrant community in the US.
Great. Thank you, Erica. Thank you. We'll give her a round of applause, and all of our speakers. We're going to jump into a panel Q&A with all of them, and so bring them back to the virtual stage. And yes, give them a warm round of applause for everything for being here, for sharing your stories and your insights. We've got a few minutes left. I know if there's any burning questions, feel free. I obviously don't have enough time to go through all of them, but I do want us to wrap up with some key action, right? So I'm going to jump into my first question, and whoever wants to jump right in is, given all of this, we talked about, the data, the workforce, we talked about elected corporate boards. What are the biggest opportunities that you see aligning all of this information that we see for our community right now?
Yeah, I'll start. It'll be super quick. I think business buying. There's the silver tsunami is happening. A lot of people are retiring that own businesses, and we're seeing the largest growing group of entrepreneurs is the Latino community. We have capital. We saw the GDP, the spending power we have. Buy those businesses. Small businesses are the largest employers across the country. If we continue to engage in that way, I think we can control the narrative in a big way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Damien. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll make one comment. I think all of this, it cannot be put into, action until we all are very knowledgeable of how this all works of identity, right? I always talk about the grit that we have in our community, that 5% that we've seen in Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 is by grit, right? But I mean that by that is also those individuals have identified and claimed their identity as Hispanic. Until we get that, until we understand that that is a huge, huge, huge factor in this influence, those numbers are not going to change. So it takes a lot of us to really lean into that to make any of this come to fruition. So that's something we have to just keep in mind, that nothing else can happen until we actually all lean into it. And all of us have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know as Noel, one of my team members, put about your superpower, your identity. As leadership development practitioner, I think one of the biggest things I say with our programs at us is that one of the first steps in becoming an effective leader, influencer, communicator is really being that strong foundation of self, right? In terms of who you are, why you're that way. And you cannot really, if you're missing out on who you are as part of your identity and being, having that as a foundation is gonna but we need that more than ever. And right now, with a lot of fear, is like lean into conversations like this, lean into your comunidad so that lean into the facts, right? And the data, as you're talking, to say, I'm going to go in there with who I am, right? Mi identidad como soy. Ana.
I think that you both are so right. The three of you guys are so right, and I think it's about narrative. There's hope because we just finished a report, fabulous report with Kantar about Latino youth, and I think we should lean into our young people because what it says is that our young people are so much more proud, so much more confident. They are unapologetically Latinos. They want to be recognized by it. They know they're driving the pop culture of their environment. People, it used to be that, people were afraid of bringing a burrito as a lunch because they were embarrassed. Now, moms are having to invite the whole school because, they want to try the burritos of the Mexican mom or all kinds of Latino food. And so I think this is important that we nurture that in our kids because Patricia, I think you are 100% right. We cannot be great Latino leaders if we don't become what these young people are, 200 percenters. They are 100% Latino and they are 100% Americans, and they don't allow anybody to make them choose. They say
Mm.
both, and we're more strong because of it. And I think that is what the three of you guys probably you know I what I got from what you guys were saying, and yes, identity is the most important part. We can't try to be white when we're on boards and then try to be Latino when we're in a posada, right? You have to be the same person.
I love that. I love that. Um, Anything else? So, Eric, I'll jump into the next question. In your view, where is the Latino influence growing the fastest over the next decade? Um, or anybody's view can jump in. Sorry, and
Well,
what sectors
that's a
might
great
surprise
question,
us? Yeah.
Patricia.
Mhm.
Given the work that I do, I'm going to say in politics, the number of Latino elected officials are growing, and our community are becoming and have been, but truly are demonstrating that they are a defining factor in winning elections. And ignoring them is to the peril of the winning campaign, of the winning candidate. You cannot take them for granted because they vote on issues. They're paying attention to what is being said and who is saying it. And so it will be detrimental, right, if the parties and any candidate assume that they have our community in their pocket as a constituency in either direction. And so I think that 2026 is around the corner. It is a defining election in so many ways. And our community, I think, is going to continue to play a decisive role in how those elections shape out, future elections shape out, and as a result, what are the policy priorities that we're going to continue working on, and the opportunities to strengthen our community and our nation.
Wonderful. We heard about AI earlier. I would, we need more Latinos in getting involved with AI. I think as maybe somebody was posting about it. Does anybody want to add anything to that? Or in general? Yeah.
I'll mention AI one thing. So LCDA did a innovation challenge on AI and how it's used to source specifically board talent. And we did it because we wanted to kind of demystify the negative of AI, right? The bias and all that, which, it exists. So I'm not discounting that. But we wanted to really use this as a way to say that these tools help us really, the AI recruiting tools help us to really identify under-tapped communities. And I'll give you really highlight of what we did. We did an exercise where we did generative AI. We did an exercise with recruiting AI tool, and then we just did a traditional search the way that I've always been. I'm a librarian, a talent intelligence expert, so I've been using these other kind of standard tools to identify talent. AI was quicker. AI also identified individuals that were kind of like like right under the radar, not your all the CEOs that you know in the Fortune 100, Fortune 500. It gave us a more qualified pool and more diverse pool on geographic, age, community. So for us, AI is a huge, huge asset because it does help identify those who might be undertapped, which Latinos have been undertapped. And two, we get lists every single day of board movement. We take that list and we push it through AI and we say, who from this list identifies as Hispanic Latino? We ask because we don't know, right? So we just a simple exercise helps us identify maybe one or two people we didn't know or recognize in our network. So through these tools, we've been able to really kind of augment our own pipeline and as well be able to influence with organizations, say AI has a great ability to really tap into these networks that you are bypassing. So for us, I think it's a huge plus, and it's already we're using it as a way to influence the pipeline.
Amazing,
Can I
amazing. And we
say
need more.
just one? I know that we're
Go
gonna. I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. I was just
One
gonna say
sentence.
supply chain. Supply chain is
Oh,
gonna be
supply chain,
a
yeah.
huge one because of all. So think back to 2020, there were shifts and disruption in supply chain. Now, when you start taking into account all the tariffs, all the changes in how the world is working, and I think the Latino community, given all of our connections around the world, internationally, we are going to be able to really make a difference there. And supply chains define how a lot of businesses survive or die. And with AI, a lot of businesses will actually die out. And so I think that's a huge space for us to be able to jump into.
Lots more. And I know we can talk about that all day, and that could be a whole separate session. Really quickly, one action that organizations or individuals can immediately take today to take action and strengthen Latino representation, to advocate, to take action.
I mean,
Damian, I'll start with you.
I'll start, right? So experiential learning is going to be critical. So make sure that you are stepping in and doing things that will allow you to gain the learning, not just from what you're getting on the workshops and things like that, but then actually doing. One of the biggest things that we have as part of Alpha is for our chapter leaders, experiential learning. So we have professionals that get P&L experience, profit and loss experience as chapter leaders in a nonprofit. We have many chapter leaders that have leveraged that experience to get promotions in their day job because they were able to say they got the P&L experience in a reputable organization that's one of the top 1% in the country from a nonprofit perspective. And so that, use what you are learning outside, experiential learning, taking action, moving, and then translating it over to the business side, and then being visible so other people can see it.
Love that. Ozzy?
Well, I think one biggest takeaway is that there is more conversation, specifically on the board side, right? Where there's so much information out there that you can start understanding what really is marketable, what really is valuable for boards, both from a startup, not-for-profit, to Fortune 100. So anyone that is young in their career, get smart. Look at
Good, smart.
get smart, do the homework. There's so much more information than there ever was before. So whenever you get to the point where you believe you are ready, you've done enough work to really get to that point and really understand and reduce the barriers that you might face in the future. But there's a lot of information there. LCDA has a lot of great resources on its website on just kind of how to think about that. But I'll give everyone one homework. I know this is kind of nerdy, but you can ask ChatGPT. Find 2 or 3 companies that you really admire in the Fortune 1000 and ask it to identify the proxy statement. And in that proxy statement, there's a matrix, a skills matrix that tells you why that person is specifically on that board. Use it as kind of your homework to understand what are the gaps and what are the possibilities. So nerdy once again, but it's super helpful.
We're right at time, so I don't know, Anna, Erica, really quickly.
Well, you know what? I just wanted to say that, talking about narrative, because we at the Latino Donor Collaborative are fully focused on narrative. The narrative of the future will be done by AI. So make sure that you're pouring into AI all this data, all the fact-based, marvelous things that we do, because We need to make sure the algorithms won't help because the algorithms are not done by us. And I can give you 1,000 examples. But what will help is that we start pouring all this data, all these great examples, all this, your life stories. Each one of you here is important. Each one of you is successful. So put in your life stories, identify as Latinos, so that next time that AI, that ChatGPT or whatever, whichever platform is asked about Latinos, they actually show you, not a narco and not a victim.
Wonderful.
And
Erika.
I'll just add, Patricia, really quickly. My call to action is be a trailblazer. You see that there's a space, a sector where Latino voice is missing. You be the one who owns that space. Go learn it, jump in, don't be afraid, bring your whole self and change the conversation and change the outcomes with your participation and your voice.
Wonderful. Please join me in giving these amazing leaders a round of applause as we kick off Hispanic Heritage Month. I know many of you will be dropping off. There will be networking that takes place after this. But I just want to share a few closing remarks as we wrap up, if you're able to stick around. What an incredible conversation. We began talking about the state of the Latino community, and today's speakers made it very clear that we are not just a part of America's future, we are driving America's presence. With the GDP of over 4 trillion and our youth representing the fastest growing segment of students and workers, with entrepreneurs starting businesses at record pace, our impact is undeniable. We also heard about youth and the workforce pipeline. Our young people are hungry for opportunity. They are tomorrow's engineers, educators, entrepreneurs, and elected officials. They need us, mentors, leaders, role models, to open doors, to share our stories, to clear pathways, and remind them that they belong at every table. We were also reminded of the urgency of representation in corporate leadership. Latinos represent 20% of the US population, less than 5% of the Fortune 500 board seats. While that has been an increase, the gap is not about lack of talent, it's lack of access. It's our responsibility to change that and lean into organizations like LCDA. We were reflected on public leadership and immigration policy. We know the policies that shape lives, but dignity and humanity must shape our approach moving forward. When immigrants are welcome, families thrive, workforce stabilize, and communities grow stronger. When we dehumanize or exclude, we all lose. If there is one thread running through everything we've heard today, it is this: we are stronger when we stand together. We are not just celebrating heritage, we are building legacy. We are not just telling stories, we are shaping strategy. And we are not just reflecting, we're acting, we're preparing, and we're supporting others to act. So as we close here today, I leave you with 3 simple actions. Continue to lift one another up. Whether you're mentoring a Latino student, mentoring one another, hiring an intern, supporting scholarships, support them. That pipeline is very real. 2, push for representation. Use your voice, use your influence to get more Latinos in positions of leadership and influence in decision-making roles. And 3, advocate for dignity, whether it's in your city council, workplace, or neighborhood. Insist on policies and practices that treat every family with humanity and respect. As I think about my own journey, the daughter of Mexican immigrants, first-generation college graduate to now leading ASEM, and standing here with you all, my story is just one of millions, but together our stories form a movement. And Hispanic Heritage Month is más que un mes, more than a month. It is our daily commitment to lead with courage, with faith, to lift one another up, and to act boldly so that the next generation inherits a world of opportunity. Let us leave here not just inspired, but ready to do the work, ready to break barriers, ready to build bridges, and ready to create the future that our community deserves. Mil gracias, and let's move forward together, juntos.